This exhibition is called The New Woman Behind the Camera. It looks at the years from the 1920s through the 1950s, brings together photographs by women from 20 countries all around the world. The exhibition is organized around the idea of the new woman, this figure that emerged in the late 19th century around the suffragist movement and really spread worldwide in the early 20th century. Now, the new woman was kind of a media phenomenon in newspapers, magazines, in films. She was embodied by celebrities like Marlene Dietrich. The new woman was really an ideal of female liberation and emancipation from the domestic duties and the entry of women into public life in the early 20th century. Many of the women who were part of this women's independence movement took up photography as a way to express themselves, both personally, artistically, and to capture the turbulent times that they were living in. Hungary is well represented beyond its proportional geography in the world. And part of this is because photography was a very popular art form in Hungary during this period. Most of the Hungarian artists who were included in the exhibition had left Hungary to move to places like Paris and Berlin. There was a very tight-knit Hungarian expatriate community in cities like Berlin and Paris, and I think that they probably all more or less knew each other either as friends or friends of friends. Hungarians are, in the larger European context, sort of both insiders and outsiders. It's part of Europe, and yet the language is so different from every other European language that, it was difficult for them to learn French or German and to become truly fluent. So rather than becoming writers or journalists, many of them took up photography as a means of visual communication. In Roger André's portrait of Dora Maar, she really captures her intensity and her intelligence in a way that you don't see in portraits of her by male artists, for example. There's something that happens in the portrait session, one woman behind the camera, one woman in front of the camera, that creates a kind of magic and that allowed her personality, her seriousness, to really come through in a way that it hadn't before. Anna Barna's work was more or less lost until it was rediscovered in 1983 because they found a box of her photographs and negatives under André Kertész's bed in his house. Here we see a boy standing on a chair. What we see is this face, sort of this strange profile of maybe an old man's face cast by the way the sun is hitting his jacket. He's an onlooker, we are also onlookers, and the whole image is really about the act of seeing and the way that your mind processes things that you see in terms that may turn them into something else. This photograph by Marta Axel that would have gone in the section on avant-garde experimentation. Looking at close-up at objects, just ordinary objects, things you might find in a kitchen, like a basket or a colander, and using photography to make them look strange and new. Oh yeah. Katja Kalman was very interested in workers' rights, which was a big issue on the left during this time. And so she was photographing workers in factories and at the docks and manual labor, representing workers, not as a sociological type, but as individuals, as distinct people that you could look into their eyes and feel like a sense of empathy. Olga Mate is another Hungarian photographer we've included in this section on avant-garde experimentation. Here she's photographing a fishing dock and its reflections in the water, but tilting her camera so that everything is going diagonally. And it's very disorienting. It's hard to tell what you're looking at and where the photographer is standing. And that's part of the point, to defamiliarize the everyday. Kati Horna was born in Hungary. She moved in the 1920s first to Berlin, then to Paris. And then in 1937, she moved to Spain along with many other artists to document the Spanish Civil War. She photographed the steps to a cathedral in Spain and then superimposed another negative of a woman's face over it. So it's two negatives together and positioned the woman's eye right over the bars in this window. So she's taking two unrelated images and merging them together to really kind of make an indirect statement about the suffering of the people in Spain during this war. This exhibition is really part of a larger movement of rewriting history and includes more different kinds of voices and more different kinds of points of view, both internationally and within certain cultures. And that includes an interest in Eastern European art in general. There have been exhibitions of artists like André Kertész, Brassai, László Moholy-Nagy, Martin Munkaczy, and several others, but there's been relatively little attention paid to the women who were working alongside them at the same time in the same places. So this exhibition and the other shows that are coming up around this are really looking at trying to include these figures in the history to present a richer and more nuanced history of this period.